Perhaps the most interesting coach on the staff, perhaps the most important coach on the staff, Bobby Slowik speaks. Does it give CJ Stroud an excuse? And is there more to what he said about the Texans rookie quarterback? Plus, let's hear what the players have to say. Some veterans and some rookies on the man known as Bobby Slowik. Who is Bobby Slowik now in the locker room?
Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we.
It was the most intriguing hire of the offseason outside of D'Amico Ryans. And as training camp has gone on, the man, the myth, the mystery that is Bobby Slowik continues to grow. The latest offensive mind from one of the most successful coaching trees currently in the NFL. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 610. That's 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. That is the number one source for Texans content when it comes to radio or podcasts. You can get that at Odyssey. And this is the number one source for Texans digital content right here in the Locker Room. We bring you angles, conversations, keep you up to date on what's going on with the Houston Texans like no one else can. So I appreciate you for coming through. If you are a Texans fan or if you're someone that just wants to get a pulse of things, that you've come to the right place. Subscribe, like, ride along. We got you covered. In this episode, we're going to get to know Bobby Slowik. Bobby Slowik worked for Pro Football Focus for a few years. He's coached defense for Mike Shanahan, and he started coaching offense for Kyle Shanahan, and now he's the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. Very interesting guy, very smart guy, very mysterious guy. And let's hear from Bobby Slowik right off the top. Damian Pierce described Bobby Slowik's playbook as a Bible. I guess he's talking about the thickness of the whole thing. Bobby Slowik responded to what Damian Pierce had to say, and man, this guy just went in depth. I know I'm the podium critic, but this guy went in depth. I don't know if he can call plays worth a damn, but he can talk, and he sounds like a guy that can teach. And when you hear the players talk about him, they seem to believe he can teach as well. So do with that what you will. Here is Bobby Slowik on his playbook.
It's just lines on a piece of paper. That's it. And at the end of the day, what the playbook really is a way for the players to just make it come to life. You know, and that's a lot of what we do is we just want to install the foundations of formations, movement, and concepts, run and pass, put the guys we have in the best position they can be in to do what they excel at. And then you keep grinding through that. And eventually what I do really doesn't matter. They make everything come to life, and they're on their way.
You know who has said that exact same thing? And I heard it last year. It was Mike McDaniel, the head coach / offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, worked with Bobby Slowik in San Francisco from 2017 to 2021. He said that as well. I heard him say the exact same thing. Now, Mike McDaniel has Jalen Waddle and Mike McDaniel has Tyreek Hill. Bobby Slowik doesn't have that, but that philosophy right there that he just said, I've heard that from Mike McDaniel. And it's easy for coaches to go up there, right? Coaches can fool you. Coaches can say things. Dalton Schultz, who joined in the loop on Sports Radio 610, which is where you can hear me. Dalton Schultz had some nice things to say about Bobby Slowik's teaching style as well. And this is what he had to say.
Dude, he's great.
Is he a boring teacher? Is he like a Stanford honors class teacher?
He's actually funny as hell. Like, I think he's kind of, you know, when we first got here, it was okay. These are the routes. Mm-hmm. These are the routes that you have on these concepts. This is what you got. And now it's kind of like peeling it back and saying, okay, this is the whole concept.
This is what you can do.
This is the route. This is why we run it like this. This is why your split is what it is. This is why I'm calling this, because I want this coverage, because against this coverage, this guy is stuck between three guys, you know. So he's kind of diving into the bits, the bits and bobs of the installs. And I think for me, you know, being somewhere and like having a kind of mastery of an offense, like on my 5th year, like I wish I would have learned it this way year 1.
Okay.
Because like, I feel like I would have gotten to where I was year 5 in that offense much quicker.
Okay. And that's really interesting. The why is kind of a theme when you hear these players speak, the why, not the what, but the why. You're probably gonna get tired of me saying that. They're saying it a lot. And coaches explaining themselves, it's not too uncommon with some of these young coaches. I think the McVays do it. I think the Shanahans do it. I think the Mike McDaniels do it. But a lot of these hardo coaches, especially the ones that we've seen, at least two of the last three, Lovie Smith and Bill O'Brien, they more so just want to tell you the what. They don't want to tell you the why. But Bobby Slowik seems to be very, very down with that. He also seems to be down with choreography. Usually when you say choreography, you're thinking of dancing. You're not thinking of, 300-pound offensive linemen being in sync. But Bobby Slowik, he went in depth on the choreography and the movement along the interior of the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a process on both sides. A lot of it, for a lot of these guys, it's similar stuff they've done before, whether they're vets or they're coming from college. There's aspects of it all they've done before, and you just change the verbiage. You change how you get there, and maybe you emphasize different things that have been emphasized to them in the past. And then putting the pieces of that puzzle together individually on their own is kind of what OTAs and the 40 days away are before camp. And then you come into camp, and typically a player is going to be the best they individually can be at that time, but you have to figure out how to be the best you can be as a unit. And that comes with its own challenges. The right guard being in tune with the center, the quarterback being in tune with the wideout, the tight end being in tune with the wideout, and just all the way across the board. Now you have to make it all fit and gel, and that takes time when the defense is going through the same thing. So it's just a never-ending process. It's endless, and it takes a lot of mental focus and a lot of work.
Okay. Takes a lot of mental focus and a lot of work. And Robert Woods, the receiver for the Texans, by the way, he was off yesterday, so he's getting a couple of days off before they crank back up. Robert Woods kind of talked about the focus and the mental grind that it takes to learn this playbook. And I think it's interesting the way he describes it. This is Robert Woods, guy who's been in this system. Here's Robert Woods talking about the intricacies of this system and a little bit kind of piling on what Bobby Slowik just said.
It's difficult, but it's simple because it's all illusion. Everything we're trying to make look the same. It's a lot of moving parts, but ultimately we're kind of getting to the same spots. But it's just you have to be locked into the calls, the checks, the formations, the movements. Like I said, it's a lot of moving stuff pre-snap, hearing the calls and adjustments. You just got to be locked in. It could be run, pass, flip the run. Detailed offense, you got to be dialed in. It's more so about having that mental capacity to be able to grasp this offense.
And difficult versus easy can sound like a contradiction. You can think maybe, well, that's contradictory, but not if you're explaining the why. See, I'm going back to the why. If you're going back to the why, then you can make the difficult. If you're explaining why, you can make the difficult easy because now you understand. Why are you telling me to move 3 feet here? Oh, okay, I see. I get it. And that's kind of where you go back to the why when it comes to Bobby Slowik's offense. Here's Bobby Slowik. This is another interesting thing. And I don't know, maybe I'm just nerding out. I'm just really enjoying hearing what Bobby Slowik has to say. What do you think? Do you think Bobby Slowik is entertaining? Or do you think Bobby Slowik is just kind of boring? I think he's actually pretty enlightening. He's not up there trying to sound like the smartest guy. He's trying to explain it in the best way he can. Here is Bobby Slowik talking about teaching versus failing. And I think this is really important. And this kind of shows what this coaching staff is trying to get across as we continue to get to know Bobby Slowik. And we'll hear what he had to say about CJ Stroud. The key to his success, unless the system's good, maybe not. Maybe he can still have success like they had in San Francisco with multiple quarterbacks. But here is Bobby Slowik talking about the ability to learn from mistakes when it comes to teaching your philosophy.
You got to be willing to teach in many different ways. Some people can listen and learn. Some people need to see it and they can learn. Some people need to go do it and they can learn. Some people need to draw it and there's all different kinds of avenues of learning. We try to make sure we attack all of those. But as I mentioned before, when you have a whole new crew, whole new staff, whole new coordinator, what's been awesome about the offense is just we're all growing together. I mean, there's mistakes made every day, every play. We haven't had a perfect play yet, and that includes the play call. So you can just be really open on what needs to be better. and how do we change it, and what do we do better so that by the time we get to week 1 and we're playing Baltimore, we're at the peak of where we want to be and we're ready to roll.
All right. So there you go. Bobby Slowik. Now, we're going to hear him on CJ Stroud, but let's hear from a young player. We've heard veterans talking about Bobby Slowik. Let's hear what Tank Dell has to say. Dalton Schultz, he has other things to compare it to. Robert Woods as well. They both go pretty in depth, but you got to teach it to the young guys, especially guys who come from much different systems. Here's Tank Dell talking about Bobby Slowik.
Yeah, Coach Slow, that's my guy. He helped me a lot with the offense, breaking it down to a standpoint where we can understand and not just he giving us a bunch of stuff and just telling us to go learn. And he actually break it down and make sure me, the whole receiver group, the quarterbacks, running backs, everybody understanding. That's what we have long meetings for. So I feel like Coach Slow, he's been doing a great job. He's a great offensive coordinator. Can't wait to get it rolling with him.
There you go. So it all goes back to the what? The why. Here's Bobby Slowik on his philosophy, and we'll hear what he has to say about CJ Stroud and perhaps some struggles that maybe CJ Stroud has had early on in camp. Actually gives him an excuse that might tell you a little bit about where they're leaning towards the starting quarterback. And maybe it is an excuse. Who knows? But here's Bobby Slowik on his philosophy, his experience, his journey, because the experience has gotten a lot of attention. Pro Football Focus, never called plays, defensive coach to offensive coach. Here's Bobby Slowik talking about his philosophy, his journey, what coaches from the past have helped him get to where he's at, and not necessarily get to where he's at even, believe what he believes when it comes to teaching.
No matter what we're doing, we're going to stick to these 3 things. And we're going to attack, we're going to run off the ball, we're going to be efficient in the pass game, we're going to be extremely detailed in our routes. There's just these core things that have nothing to do with the lines on the paper that are just a part of how I think you should play offensive football. That more so than anything is what I learned on my journey that I'm trying to implement.
Let's do that one more time. He says 3. He's got so much information. He says 3 and lists 4.
No matter what we're doing, we're going to stick to these 3 things. And we're going to attack, we're going to run off the ball, we're going to be efficient in the pass game, we're going to be extremely detailed in our routes. There's just these core things that have nothing to do with.
All right, that's 4. But, the more, the merrier. Maybe you combine one of those. Who knows? Now, the success of an offensive coordinator often comes down to the quarterback. I know LaFleur, Mike LaFleur went to the Jets, didn't work out for him. Zach Wilson probably had a little bit to do with that. Bobby Slowik has been in San Francisco. He's had success with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's had success with Brock Purdy, obviously in a different role. And he's seen the Trey Lance thing really not work out for multiple reasons. CJ Stroud has thrown 3 interceptions the last couple of days in practice. Bobby Slowik was asked about that. And I know that we don't really think of this, but Bobby Slowik brings up kind of an excuse that it's right in front of us. Matter of fact, it's blaring down on us when we're out there. I can speak from experience. I'm drenched when I come home. Could the heat have something to do with CJ Stroud's struggles? And is Bobby Slowik kind of patting perhaps his starting quarterback on the head? This is Bobby Slowik talking about CJ Stroud's struggles.
The first thing I've seen is that it is really hot in Houston. I know that's there's challenges that come with that, making sure that you know how to handle the heat. You know how to handle the challenges of a wet ball. You know how to handle the challenges of a center who maybe just ran 4 run plays in a row and 30 yards down the field. And, he's a little greased up, and having answers and preparation for that is a big part of just being able to handle the environment. Then on top of that, being able to continue to trust his feet, go through his progressions, which he's done a really good job of as we get through camp. And then mistakes get made along the way. Sometimes it's the receiver, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's him. And you kind of just learn from them, grow from them, bank it. That's what training camp's about. Training camp's about good on good, not always having a perfect play and seeing if we can make it work, because that winds up paying off in season.
Some of you may be laughing about that, and I completely understand, but let's think about it this way. CJ Stroud is never going to play in this type of heat in an actual game. There's going to be a roof over NRG. There's going to be a roof in Indy. It's not going to be this hot in Jacksonville. It's not going to be this hot in Nashville. He comes from Ohio State, where it's often cold. So Bobby Slowik kind of wants you to to factor that in when it comes to the struggles. Davis Mills, this is the third time that he's gone through this heat. So it's not new to him. And that's not my words. I don't know what to make of that. I'm just listening to the offensive coordinator say that is something that you have to overcome and something that perhaps CJ Stroud is not used to. And fortunately for him, he's not going to have to play in this type of heat. And you're damn sure not going to be playing right there at 9 o'clock. Sometimes the roof will open up, but that'll be a little bit in the fall. Do you think that is a valid excuse? Put it in the comments, subscribe, like, right along, all that type of stuff. Most important thing for a rookie is learning from mistakes. Here is Bobby Slowik on if CJ Stroud has shown the ability to be able to bounce back once he makes a mistake.
Absolutely. Usually he'll turn right around and he can say what went wrong. Whether it was him, me, like I said, receiver, protection. I mean, he has a great feel for what's happening around him. And it doesn't take all the way until the film room to be able to talk about it and know how to handle it. He has an idea before we see the tape. Typically with him, the tape is just verifying what he already knows.
Okay. So he believes that. I think we'll get a better grasp of that once the season comes on. Final thing from Bobby Slowik here on In the Locker Room. Bobby Slowik on college versus NFL, the challenges, the differences that come with that. He's kind of taking you behind the scenes of perhaps one of the biggest teaching points that he has for CJ Stroud. Here's Bobby Slowik talking about college versus pro.
Top thing that's different in the NFL compared to college is how messy the pocket gets. So your starting point for handling that, for me, took a while to understand, okay, do we just tell them to move, or how exactly do you coach that? And it really is what hammered in the importance of footwork to me. I would say that's the number one thing for a young quarterback. And there's a lot that's going on. Obviously that position demands a lot, but being able to trust your footwork and trust your mindset and what you're seeing enables you to react to really all the chaos that winds up going on around you at that position. Once you start feeling that, that's when, things start clicking.
All right, there you go. Footwork, choreography, heat, a lot of stuff, a lot of information from that Bobby Slowik fella. Can he call plays worth a damn, though? That is to be determined, but I don't know about you. I'm very, very intrigued. Appreciate you for coming through. Texans are off today. Tomorrow we'll be back on the practice field. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's going to be a big guest on the show tomorrow. Big, very big. One of the biggest you can possibly have. Download the Odyssey app. Check it out. 11 o'clock hour. I'm looking forward to bringing it to you. Look who we've already talked to. We've talked to Jimmy Ward. We've talked to Dalton Schultz. We've talked to Damian Pierce. We've talked to Will Anderson. We've talked to Matt Burke. Fun times. And that's the exclusive content that you get on the radio program as well as on the stream. We're going to have some guys on the stream eventually as well. Number one source for Texans daily digital content. Just getting started. Not even a year deep. And the interest is only improving. The vibes are fun. And no matter what happens, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we are all in this together. Appreciate you for coming through.
Yeah, it's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the Locker Room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock.